Betty by Tiffany McDaniel is a novel inspired by the childhood of the author's mother, Betty. While the story is fictional, it draws loosely from McDaniel's mother's life, even including the names of her family members. McDaniel grew up in Circleville, Ohio, a town resembling the fictional Breathed, where the novel unfolds. Betty was first published in 2020 by Knopf Doubleday Publishing Group. Betty's father, a Cherokee man named Landon Carpenter, marries Betty's mother, a white woman named Alka, after a night they spend together in a graveyard. When Alka's father discovers her pregnancy, he beats her, prompting Landon to cut his father-in-law's soul from his nose before marrying Alka. Years later, Betty is born in Arkansas as the fourth of 6 children to Alka and Landon. After white mine workers shatter Landon's knee in a racist attack, the family leaves Arkansas and travels across the United States for 2 years. When Betty is 6, they return to Breathed, Ohio, near where Landon and Alka first met. Settling in an old, crumbling house believed to be cursed, Landon plants a garden and constructs a stage, teaching his children about Cherokee traditions. In Cherokee belief, only women hold the power to plant, and they use the stage to sing and protect the garden. Betty and her sisters play, sing, and write there, calling it a faraway place. Meanwhile, the local paper, the Breathanian, reports mysterious nighttime gunfire that unsettles the town. With their eldest brother Leland away in the army, Betty and her siblings, Freya, Flossie, Trustin, and Lint, spend their days playing in the creek, making art, and tending the garden. One day, Alka attempts suicide, and she spends days recovering in the hospital. Fond of yellow and dreaming of a lemon grove, Alka is cheered when Landon pins lemons to trees. Shortly afterward, the sisters steal a jar of Landon's moonshine and accidentally burn down a church, which Flossie attributes to the house's curse. At school, Betty faces prejudice for her Cherokee heritage. When a girl named Ruthus accuses Betty of stealing her coin purse, the teacher beats Betty with a ruler until Ruthus finds the purse in her own desk. Landon tries to counteract the racism by telling stories to make Betty feel special. When Alka mentions that a bark used to relieve constipation can also terminate pregnancies, Freya tries it on herself. The next day, she is bleeding and sick. The doctor removes the bark and she slowly recovers in the hospital. At 9, Betty learns that her father repeatedly raped Alka as a child and that her mother did nothing to stop it. Betty writes the story and buries it under the stage. One day, after playing with Flossie, she witnesses Leland raping Freya in the barn, trapping her hair around a window crank. Terrified, she remains silent. Later, when Freya cuts her hair, Betty confesses, and Freya warns that if she tells anyone, she will die by suicide. Betty writes Freya's story and buries it with her mother's. Freya moves into an apartment above the cafe where she works. When Flossie begins menstruating, she and Betty dance like their Cherokee ancestors to ease her pain. After Alka's father dies, the family attends the funeral, and Alka's mother finally lets the grandchildren into her house. Later, a stray cat gives birth at their home. Alka throws the mother cat out a window, then violently kills the kittens while forcing Betty to help, saying that she was just as helpless during her father's abuse. Betty continues writing at a faraway place, recording Flossie's story when she reveals she has been raped. She later has her first encounter with a boy, asserting her boundaries when he begins to touch her. That summer, she works for Old Woman Slipperwort, who tells Betty she is beautiful and to always be herself. Betty also accompanies Trustin to sell his paintings and meets Miss Pleasant, a woman whose masked face hides a supposed disfigurement from a past inaction against evil. Leland returns, and Betty confronts him about raping Freya. He claims Betty shares the guilt for not intervening. In retaliation, Betty uses Landon's pocket knife to cut Leland's nose, mirroring Landon's past act against Alka's father, and Landon punishes Betty, unaware of the circumstances. She then exposes Miss Pleasant's face, revealing it as normal, and sees her own reflection as disfigured. Tragedy continues when Trustin dies from a fall at the water tower. Betty blames herself, though Landon reassures her. At school, Betty faces harassment, prompting her to wear shorts. Leland ruins the family garden, but Freya destroys it to prevent Betty from revealing the truth. Flossie marries a wealthy man under her mother's urging, but despises motherhood and eventually dies of a drug overdose after leaving her son with her mother-in-law. Betty witnesses a crucified owl and is helped by a woman who disappears before the owl's fate is revealed. Freya later dies from an allergic reaction, which the police mistakenly rule a suicide. Leland flees after her death. As a teenager, Betty embraces writing and self-image, narrowly preventing her nephew Nova from injury, though he later suffers a brain injury. Eventually, Betty and Landon share a tender moment in the woods before his death in the hospital from bleeding, contrary to her imagined version. At Landon's funeral, Betty confronts Leland, revealing the truths about Alka and Freya. Leland confesses to killing Freya to conceal her pregnancy. Betty and Lint confront him, leaving him to flee. After the funeral, stories of Landon's love and kindness circulate, and Betty decides to leave breathed, while Lint remains to maintain the family business and care for Alka. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe.